The night everything shifted in their family started out quiet. Too quiet, actually. The kind of quiet that makes a person feel something is coming, even if they cannot name it yet. Ethan felt that silence the moment he walked into his childhood home. He had not planned on visiting that evening, but his mother, Laura, had called him earlier with a simple request. She wanted the family together. No reason given. No hints. Just her warm voice asking him to come by when he could. And Ethan listened, because he always listened to her. He stepped into the living room and paused. The house looked the same, but it felt different. Maybe it was the warm lamplight, or maybe it was the strange tension in the air. His younger sister, Brooke, stood near the window, her arms crossed like she had been waiting for him. His father, Mark, seemed restless, pacing near the fireplace in quiet steps. Neither looked like they knew what this gathering was about either. Only one person seemed calm. Laura. She sat in her favorite chair, hands folded neatly in her lap, watching her family with eyes that held something Ethan could not read. Not sadness. Not fear. Something else. He joined them, taking a slow breath as he set his keys on the coffee table. "Okay," Ethan said gently. "I'm here." "What's going on?" Brooke shrugged. "Your guess is as good as mine." Mark stopped pacing. "Your mom said she had something she wants to share." Ethan turned to Laura. "Mom, what is it?" Laura looked at each of them, taking her time, as if she wanted to memorize the moment before speaking. She had always been the emotional heartbeat of their home, the one who found the right words even when no one else could. Tonight, though, her calmness felt strange. Purposeful. "I asked you all to come because there's something I need to tell you," she said. Her voice was steady. Too steady. Ethan pulled a chair closer, settling near her feet the way he used to when he was younger. "We're listening." She breathed in, long and slow. "Before I say anything, I want you all to know that I love you very much." That sentence made Brooke shift uncomfortably. "Mom," she murmured. "You're scaring me a little." Laura gave her a gentle smile. "I don't want to scare you. I just want you to understand my heart before anything else." Mark sat down finally, hands clasped tight. He did not interrupt, but the worry in his eyes was impossible to miss. Ethan leaned forward. "It's okay. Just tell us." Laura folded her hands, staring at them for a moment before lifting her gaze again. "For the past year," she said softly, "I've been carrying something alone. And I realized I cannot keep carrying it by myself." The room stayed still. Even the air seemed to wait. Brooke was the first to react. "Are you sick?" she whispered. Laura reached over and took her hand. "No, sweetheart. I'm not sick." Ethan's breath eased a little, but only a little. "Then what is it?" His mother looked at her husband for one long moment. A look that held years of shared life. Shared memories. Shared silence. Mark gave a tiny nod, though his face grew tight. And then she spoke again. "I want to tell you about something from my past," she said. "Something you've never known. Something I've never talked about. But it's time." Ethan frowned. His mother rarely talked about her life before marriage. He always thought it was because she preferred to focus on the present. But now, with the way she was holding herself, something deeper was hiding there. Brooke hesitated. "Why now?" Laura looked at her daughter tenderly. "Because keeping it to myself has started to change me. And you deserve to know the full truth about your family." "About me." Ethan exchanged a look with Brooke. No one understood what that meant yet, but they both felt the weight of it. Mark's voice broke the silence, low and strained. "Laura, you don't have to." "I do," she said quietly. "I do, Mark." He fell silent. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never seen his father look like that. Not broken. Not worried. Just deeply conflicted. "Mom," Ethan said, his voice softer. "Whatever it is, we can handle it." She reached out and touched his arm. "I know. That's why I'm telling you." The lamp flickered slightly, casting a warmer glow over the room. It made the scene feel even more intimate. Almost fragile. Laura looked down again, gathering herself. "There's someone you don't know about," she said finally. "Someone connected to our family. Someone I've kept hidden for a long time. Ethan's heart kicked hard in his chest. Brooke froze. Mark closed his eyes for a moment, as if bracing for something. Laura continued, her voice calm but trembling around the edges. And tonight, she said quietly, I want to tell you who they are, and why I've kept this secret for so many years. Ethan felt the world narrow around her words. His mind raced with possibilities, but nothing fit. Nothing made sense. Mom, he whispered. Who is it? She opened her mouth. And then paused. She looked at the door. At the hallway. At the very space behind them. And then she said something that made Ethan's pulse stop for a second. I invited them here tonight. Ethan turned sharply, as if expecting someone to suddenly appear. Brooke stood straighter, her breath catching. Mark rubbed his forehead, whispering something under his breath. Laura gave a slow, trembling smile. It is time you meet them, she said. And then, before any of them could speak again, a soft knock echoed through the house. 3 quiet knocks. Steady. Intentional. Ethan stared at the front door, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Laura whispered the final line she needed to say before anything else happened. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Another knock came. This time a little stronger. And Ethan realized the moment that door opened, their family would never be the same again. The knocking didn't stop. Not loud. Not rushed. Just steady enough to make the air feel heavier with each quiet tap against the door. Ethan stood slowly. He didn't even remember making the decision to move. His body just knew something was happening, something bigger than the 4 of them. Brooke stayed frozen near the window, eyes wide, as if afraid that whoever stood outside might see her first. Mark didn't move at all. Only Laura watched the door with a soft, nervous peace. Like she had been waiting for this moment for years. Ethan swallowed, trying to keep his voice steady. Mom, should I answer it? She nodded. Yes. It's time. He walked toward the door, each step echoing a little too loudly in the quiet house. His hand hovered over the doorknob for a second. Just long enough for one last thought to flash through his mind. Who could possibly be on the other side? He turned the knob. The door opened with a slow creak. And there, standing on the front porch beneath the warm porch light, was a woman. Maybe around Laura's age. Maybe a little younger. Her posture was straight, but her eyes looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with lack of sleep. She held her hands together, like she wasn't sure if she should step inside. She looked at Ethan with a soft, uncertain smile. Hi. Ethan blinked. Hi, can I help you? She looked past him, into the living room. Her eyes landed on Laura. Laura stood up from her chair. The woman whispered, Laura. Brooke's hand flew to her mouth. Mark looked away, staring into the fireplace like it had suddenly become the most important thing in the room. Ethan stepped aside instinctively, even though he still had no idea who she was. Laura moved closer. Her voice softened in a way Ethan had never heard before. Come in. The woman stepped inside quietly. She hesitated, wiping her palms against her jeans like she was trying to gather courage. Ethan glanced at Brooke. Brooke glanced at him. Neither had answers. Neither could guess what was coming. Laura turned to her children. Ethan. Brooke. She paused, her eyes shining. This is Hannah. The woman gave a small, nervous wave. Hi. I know this is strange. Ethan nodded because he didn't know what else to do. It's okay. But it didn't feel okay. It felt like something was unraveling around them. Laura's hands trembled slightly as she rested them on the back of her chair. There's something I never told you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Brooke stepped closer to their mother. Mom, please just tell us. Who is she? Laura took a breath that didn't sound steady at all. Hannah is family, she said softly. Ethan felt his pulse jump. Family? How? Laura looked at Hannah with a quiet, emotional ache. Hannah is my daughter. The silence that followed felt thick and slow. Brooke shook her head, almost immediately. What? No. That can't be right. Ethan stared at his mother, trying to process her words. Your daughter. But, You mean before Dad? Before us? Laura nodded. Mark closed his eyes again, his shoulders tightening. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. You never told us you had another child. Hannah looked down, her voice trembling. She couldn't. Back then, it wasn't simple. Laura swallowed hard. I was young. I didn't have support. I made decisions I never stopped thinking about. She was adopted by a wonderful family, but I always hoped, someday. Mark finally spoke, his voice low but steady. Someday you'd reconnect. Laura looked at him, tears gathering. Yes. Brooke stepped back, overwhelmed. So all this time, we had a sister out there? Hannah's voice cracked. Half-sister. The room shifted. Not physically, but emotionally. Ethan could see it in Hannah's eyes. She wasn't here to take anything away from their family. She wasn't here to replace anyone. She was just searching. Maybe for closure. Maybe for connection. Maybe for a mother she never stopped wondering about. Ethan tried to find words. How long have you two been in contact? Laura wiped at her eyes. About a year. We started with letters. Then a few phone calls. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. And I didn't want to disrupt your lives if it turned out she didn't want a deeper relationship. Hannah stepped a little closer. I didn't want to disrupt anything either. I just wanted to know the woman who gave me life. Brooke's voice was small. Why tonight? Why now? Laura exhaled shakily. Because keeping her hidden, keeping this secret, it started to hurt. It started to change the way I moved through the days. And I didn't want to keep living with a wall between us. Ethan watched her. His mother. The strongest, calmest person he knew. And she looked terrified. Vulnerable. He understood something then. This wasn't just a revelation. This was a confession. A burden finally laid down. Hannah wrung her hands. I know this is a shock. And I don't expect anything. I just wanted to meet you. All of you. Even once. Ethan stepped toward her, unsure, but wanting to ease the tension. We're just trying to understand. That's all. Hannah nodded quickly. I get it. I really do. Brooke whispered, I don't know how to feel. Laura opened her arms slightly. You can feel whatever you need to feel. I just want us to start from the truth. The house was quiet again. But not like before. This time, it was a fragile quiet. A quiet full of questions, confusion, hope, and fear blending into something none of them knew how to navigate yet. And then Ethan noticed something else. Hannah wasn't alone. On the porch, near the steps, sat a small travel bag. Like she wasn't just visiting for a moment, but maybe for longer. Ethan turned to her gently. Did you plan to stay a while? Hannah froze, caught by surprise. Before she could answer, Laura spoke softly. I invited her to stay the weekend. Brooke gasped. Mark looked over sharply, and Ethan felt his breath catch again. The story wasn't just beginning. It was already moving into something deeper, something none of them were prepared for. The room didn't breathe for a moment after Laura admitted she had invited Hannah to stay for the weekend. Ethan felt the air grow thick around them. Not in a hostile way, but in a way that made everything feel heavier. Realer. Like whatever they did next mattered. A lot. Brooke was the first to react. She let out a tight breath and shook her head softly. Not in anger. More in disbelief. Mom, you should have told us. You should have prepared us for something like this. Laura nodded slowly. You're right. I should have. Brooke ran a hand through her hair. I'm not mad. I'm just overwhelmed. Hannah stepped back a little, sensing the tension. I can go to a hotel, she said quietly. I really didn't want to make things complicated. Laura shook her head firmly. No. You're not going anywhere. I invited you for a reason. I wanted my family to finally meet you. I wanted us to have time together. Mark cleared his throat and finally spoke again. Why didn't you tell me she was staying overnight? Laura looked at him with tired honesty. Because I wasn't sure you'd support it. And I didn't want to risk backing out. Not again. Her voice broke a little on those last two words. Ethan watched his father's expression shift. Not anger. Not frustration. More like guilt. Like he knew exactly what she meant. And maybe he did. Hannah lifted her hands slightly in a nervous gesture. I don't want to cause any problems. If this isn't the right time. This is the right time, Laura interrupted gently. Silence settled again. Ethan finally stepped toward the door and picked up Hannah's travel bag. It wasn't large. Just enough to suggest she wasn't sure how long she'd be welcome. Or how long she'd feel comfortable staying. He carried it into the living room and set it against the wall. Look, he said softly. It's a lot to take in. But you're here now. And we can take things slow. Hannah's eyes softened, grateful but cautious. Thank you. Brooke crossed her arms again, not defensive, just protective of the life she thought she understood. So, where do we even start? Laura walked to her, placing a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. We start with honesty. With giving each other space. With letting ourselves feel whatever we feel without judgment. Ethan nodded. That seems fair. Hannah gave a nervous smile. I don't mind questions. I know you probably have a lot. But no one asked anything yet. Not because they didn't want to. Because they were afraid of stepping wrong. Mark finally stood up and cleared his throat, as if grounding himself. Why don't we sit down? All of us. They gathered around the living room. Ethan sat on the couch. Brooke chose the chair by the window. Mark sat near the fireplace. And Hannah sat carefully on the edge of the loveseat, hands folded, like she wasn't sure she had the right to relax. Laura sat nearest to her. Ethan watched quietly as she reached for Hannah's hand. It wasn't forced. It wasn't dramatic. It was gentle. Honest. A mother's instinct showing itself after years of silence. Hannah took the hand slowly, her eyes turning glassy. It was a small moment. But it felt like the foundation of something new. Ethan spoke first. So, how long have you known? About us, I mean. Hannah hesitated. Since I was around 18 years old. My adoptive parents told me the truth. They gave me her name and the little information they had. Brooke frowned. And you waited until now to reach out? I did, Hannah said softly. I wasn't ready back then. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't want to step into someone's life without understanding who I was. Ethan nodded slowly. That made sense to him. Brooke whispered, you could have reached out sooner. Hannah didn't get defensive. Instead, she lowered her voice. I know. And I'm sorry if it feels like I waited too long. I just wanted to come into this. Carefully. Respectfully. Laura squeezed her hand. She did everything right. Mark looked at Laura, then at Hannah. Did you come here alone? Yes, she said. My adoptive parents passed away a few years ago. I don't have siblings. So, it's just me. Those words hit the room in a soft, aching way. Just me. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. Maybe sympathy. Maybe connection. Maybe the sudden understanding that she wasn't just a stranger, they shared blood. History. Pieces of a life that had been split apart long before any of them knew. Brooke exhaled, more gently this time. You must have been nervous to show up. Hannah laughed weakly. I almost turned the car around 3 times. Laura gave her a warm, tearful smile. But you didn't. No, Hannah whispered. I didn't. Ethan leaned back. Do you, want something to drink? Water? Tea? Hannah shook her head, touched by the offer. I'm okay. Thank you. Mark rubbed the back of his neck. You said you were adopted by a good family. Yes, Hannah said with a proud warmth. They were wonderful people. They gave me a life filled with love. I'm grateful for them every day. Laura nodded, tears gathering. I prayed for that. For you to land somewhere safe. Hannah turned to her, voice trembling. You did more than you know. For a moment, no one spoke. The quiet wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It was emotional. Raw. A little hopeful. Outside, the wind brushed softly against the windows. A gentle reminder that the world was still moving even as their own world paused. Brooke finally sat forward, elbows on her knees. So, what do you want from us? It wasn't a harsh question. It was honest. Hannah took a breath. I don't want anything you can't give. I don't want to force my way into your lives. I just wanted to meet you. To know you. And if there's room in your heart. She hesitated. If there's space. I'd like to come back sometimes. Even if it's just for holidays or birthdays. But if not, I'll respect whatever you decide. Laura's breath hitched. Ethan watched his mother's face soften with something deep and maternal. But before Laura could speak, Brooke interrupted quietly. I need time. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I need time. Hannah nodded, grateful she was even being honest. I understand. Truly. Ethan cleared his throat. I think, we all need time. Hannah smiled, a little sad but hopeful. That's fair. Laura brushed tears from her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt any of you. I just wanted to protect everyone. But I realize now, sometimes protecting is just another way of hiding. She looked at her son. Then her daughter. Then her husband. All with the same quiet plea. I don't want to hide anymore. Mark wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Then we won't. Ethan noticed Hannah look down suddenly, as if embarrassed. But then he realized why. A tear slid down her cheek. Quiet. Gentle. Almost relieved. And in that moment, Ethan understood something he hadn't before. This wasn't just their mother's story. This was theirs now. Together. The beginning of something none of them fully understood yet. And just as the tension began to soften, a sudden sound came from the hallway. A soft vibration. Ethan's phone. He checked the screen, expecting a random message. But when he read the notification, his stomach tightened. He looked up slowly. Because whatever came next was about to complicate things even more. Ethan stared at his phone, his expression tightening just enough for everyone in the room to notice. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was sharp, like something important had just landed at the worst possible moment. Brooke stopped mid-breath. What is it? Ethan hesitated. It's nothing. Just a message. Laura leaned forward. From who? Ethan locked the screen, almost protectively. From Megan. Hannah glanced between them, unsure if she should ask who that was. Brooke answered for her. Megan is Ethan's girlfriend. Hannah nodded softly. Oh. Okay. But Laura wasn't satisfied yet. She watched her son the way mothers do when they know their child is trying to hold something back. Ethan, she said gently. Is everything all right? He took a breath, trying to push the tension out of his voice. She just wants to talk later, that's all. But the tone in his eyes said otherwise. Mark noticed it first. Something wrong between you two? Not wrong, Ethan replied carefully. Just complicated. And tonight isn't the time. He put the phone face down on the table, ending the conversation without actually ending it. Hannah shifted slightly on the love seat, sensing the ripple his message caused. She looked like she wanted to fade into the background, but she stayed still, trying not to intrude. Brooke cleared her throat, redirecting the room. We should probably show her where she'll sleep. Laura perked up, grateful for a practical way to ease the tension. Yes. That's a good idea. She stood and touched Hannah's arm gently. Come on, sweetheart. You'll stay in the guest room. It's not big, but it's cozy. The word sweetheart slipped out naturally. Tenderly. It clearly surprised Hannah. Her eyes shone for a moment before she nodded. Thank you. Laura led her through the hallway, speaking softly as they disappeared from view. Ethan and Brooke remained in the living room. Mark stayed too, arms crossed, thoughtful. The house felt quieter again, but not in the same way as before. This quiet felt like the minutes after a storm where everything is still standing, but nothing looks the same. Brooke sank back into the chair. This is a lot. Ethan nodded. Yeah. It is. She seems nice, Brooke added softly. She does. But it still feels weird. I know. Brooke looked toward the hallway. Do you think Mom did the right thing? Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, thinking. I think she did what she thought she had to do. And maybe keeping it a secret this long hurt her more than we realized. Mark exhaled slowly. Your mother has carried this for decades. You don't hide something that heavy without paying for it. Brooke frowned. Did you know? Before tonight? Mark didn't answer immediately. His silence said more than words. Then he nodded once. I knew she had a child years ago. She told me about it before we got married. But she also told me the adoption was final and she didn't know if she'd ever see the child again. After that, she didn't talk about it much. And I didn't push. Ethan blinked. So you knew this entire time? I knew about the past, Mark clarified gently. I didn't know she'd found Hannah. I didn't know they'd been talking. She kept that part from me too. Brooke let out a breath. So she didn't just shock us. She shocked you. Mark nodded. Yes. Another quiet moment passed through the room. Ethan leaned forward. Dad, how do you feel about all of this? Mark paused, searching for the right words. I feel relieved, I think. She carried this alone for so long. And I didn't realize how much it weighed on her until tonight. I wish she had trusted me sooner. But I'm glad she's not hiding anymore. Brooke softened at that. So what happens now? She asked. Ethan shook his head. I guess we see where this goes. One step at a time. They all fell into a thoughtful silence. A few minutes later, Laura returned from the hallway. Her eyes were still a little red, but she looked lighter. Like she had finally let out a breath she had been holding for years. Hannah's getting settled, she said. She just needs a moment. Brooke nodded. We all do. Laura gave a small smile. I know this is a lot to process. I didn't expect everything to feel normal right away. I just hope we can move gently. Together. Ethan stood and hugged her. We can try, Mom. Laura held on to him a little longer than usual. When he pulled away, she wiped a tear from her cheek. Thank you. The house settled again. This time, the quiet didn't feel tense. It felt thoughtful. Tender. Like everyone was trying to find their balance in this new family shape. Then, without warning, the soft creak of the guest room door echoed down the hallway. Hannah stepped out slowly. Not intruding. Not insisting. Just present. She held a small framed photograph in her hand, something she must have unpacked immediately. Ethan recognized the look on her face. It was the look of someone torn between two worlds. She approached the living room carefully. I'm sorry to interrupt. But, there's something I think you should see. Laura blinked. What is it? Hannah held out the frame, her voice quiet. This was the only photo I ever had of myself as a baby. They gave it to my adoptive parents on the day I was placed with them. She turned the frame around. And the moment Laura saw it, her breath caught sharply. She pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes flooding instantly. Because there, in the small faded photograph, was baby Hannah. Wrapped in a blanket. Held in the arms of a much younger Laura. Tears fell down Laura's cheeks before she could stop them. I thought they took that picture away, she whispered. They didn't, Hannah said softly. They kept it. And they told me someday. I might want to know where I came from. Laura reached for the frame with trembling hands. Everyone watched, not speaking, not moving, because the moment felt too fragile to break. Hannah stepped closer. There's more, she whispered. On the back of the photo, your handwriting is still there. Laura flipped it over with shaking fingers. A line written in faded blue ink read, "For the daughter I hope will forgive me someday." Laura covered her face and began to cry. And this time, Hannah stepped forward. She didn't hesitate. She didn't question. She wrapped her arms around the woman who had given her life. And Laura held her just as tightly. The rest of the family watched. And for the first time since the night began, it felt like something broken was finally starting to heal. Laura held on to Hannah like she had been waiting half a lifetime for the moment. And maybe she had. When they finally separated, it wasn't awkward or rushed. It was slow. Gentle. Like neither wanted to break the delicate peace forming between them. Laura wiped her cheeks and whispered, "I'm so glad you kept this photo." Hannah nodded. It was the only piece I had of where I came from. I used to look at it and wonder what your life was like. What you sounded like. What kind of person you were. Laura touched her face softly. I never stopped thinking about you. Not once. The living room stayed quiet for a long, tender moment. Ethan felt something soften in him, something he didn't even realize had tightened. Brooke did too, judging by the way her arms slowly uncrossed. The family wasn't whole yet. But the walls between them were lower now. Almost see-through. Hannah took a careful breath and stepped back. I'm sorry if I brought too much emotion into the house tonight. I just thought you should see the picture. It felt right. It was right, Ethan said gently. Brooke nodded. Yeah. I think we needed to see it. Mark, quiet until now, walked over and placed a steady hand on Hannah's shoulder. You're welcome here. I want you to know that. Hannah's eyes softened. Thank you. Laura looked at her family, at the room that suddenly felt different, warmer, even in the middle of so much change. I know everything shifted tonight, she said carefully. And I don't expect us to have all the answers by morning. I just hope we can try. Brooke gave a small smile. Trying is okay. I can do that. Ethan nodded. Me too. Hannah whispered, I don't want to replace anyone. I just want to find my place, whatever that looks like. Laura stepped forward again and held both of Hannah's hands. You don't have to replace anyone. You're my daughter. That can stand on its own. Hannah looked overwhelmed again, this time with something soft and hopeful instead of fear. The moment passed gently, and eventually, Laura suggested they make tea. Something to warm the room a little more. Something normal. Mark went to the kitchen to help. Brooke sat beside Hannah for the first time, close but cautious. So, do you live far from here? About an hour away, Hannah answered. In a small town west of here. That's not far, Brooke said, almost in relief. No, Hannah said softly. It's not. Ethan watched them speak, noticing how Hannah leaned in just a little, not wanting to intrude but wanting to belong. Brooke mirrored the gesture without realizing it. Something small and fragile was forming. A beginning. Laura returned with mugs of tea. She handed them out one by one, her hands still trembling slightly, but with peace this time, not fear. Thank you, Hannah whispered as she accepted hers. They all sat together, sipping quietly. No one forced conversation. No one tried to fill the silence. They just existed in it, letting the night settle around them. Eventually, Laura reached for a blanket draped over the back of the couch and handed it to Hannah. In case you get cold tonight. Hannah accepted it, her voice thick. Thank you. Laura brushed her cheek gently. Good night, sweetheart. The word landed differently now. Hannah smiled, small, real. Good night. She went down the hallway toward the guest room, the blanket tucked under her arm, the photo still held close. When the door clicked softly behind her, Brooke exhaled slowly. This is really happening. Yes, Laura whispered. It is. Ethan leaned back, letting the weight of the night settle into something more manageable. It's going to be okay. Laura looked at him with soft gratitude. Thank you for trying tonight. Both of you. Brooke sat beside her mother and rested her head on her shoulder. We'll figure it out together. Mark returned from the kitchen and placed a reassuring hand on his wife's back. One day at a time. The family sat together until the house grew quiet. One by one, they got up and went to their rooms. Ethan lingered last. He turned off the living room light, and in the soft glow of the hallway, he looked toward the guest room, toward the woman who had shown up with a single photo and changed everything. He didn't know what the future would look like. He didn't know how their relationships would grow, stretch, or strain. But he knew one thing. They weren't walking away from her. Not now. Not after tonight. He whispered a soft goodnight to the silent hallway, then headed to his room. And somewhere down the hall, behind a softly closed door, Hannah lay awake too, holding the faded photograph of the mother she finally found, in the home she never expected to step into. A home that, for the first time in her life, didn't feel as far away as it once had. Their family wasn't perfect. But it was real. And now, at last, it was finally whole. The end.